Hi everyone. I was really pleased to see how many people were interested in the Randomiser add-on. I thought I'd produce a little video to show a bit more how to use it. I think a couple of people were having problems perhaps just because they didn't know how the settings worked and things. A lot of people also submitted bug reports as well. Thank you for your feedback on it. I've been working hard to sort of sort them out, and I think it should all be working now. I think a lot of people were having a locale error come up when they tried to enable the script. This was due to a Python module that I'm not using anymore, causing problems. So sorry about that, but it should be fixed now, I think. So, without further ado, I thought I'd show you a bit how to use the script. So, the installation is the same as for any Python add-on. So, I've got it installed here already. But if I were installing it afresh, I'd just click Install for File, go to wherever I downloaded it to, and just hit Install for File to install it. So that's turning the add-on on. And now let's take a look at how you use it. So I've got a cube object here. I'll just go through the object randomizing settings first. So if I enable randomize, if I hit Alt-A to animate, nothing's going to happen yet. I'll tell you what, I'll turn on screencast keys as well, just to make this easier to follow. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So nothing's going to happen yet because the Randomiser add-on requires that you have a group of objects for which to draw the object data for this from. So it picks at random from that group, or picks in an ordered way from that group and updates the object data. So I'm just going to add a few objects. I'm going to add a monkey and a torus, let's see, cone, and add these all to a group, Control G, and I'll call that group, well, I'll call it group, it's fine like that. So I'm just going to copy the name of that group and paste it into the group option in the randomize settings down here. And now when I cycle through, you can see that my object data changes every frame. And what's useful about this is that it's only the object data that's changing for this object, or rather the mesh data. So I can in fact add things like, I could add a subsurface modifier, which looks terrible on that code, but it will also get applied to the monkey and the torus. So you can do some interesting things with that. And obviously you can animate the object's sort of position, scale, any object level properties without affecting the randomizer add-on, which is just going to swap out the mesh data from each of these objects. And as for how the randomizer add-on updates the data, the default option is to update based on frequency, which means that every set number of frames it will swap out the object data for a new object. You can set it to manual and key the updates instead, so you can see if I scroll through the animation nothing happens until I change this time property. So if I set some keys on that, set it to 0 on frame 1, and 100, or yeah, it should be 99 on frame 100, or 100, whatever, doesn't matter. You can see that now updates every frame according to the keyed value there. So you have two options for how you want the data to update. And as for the generate method, which is how it picks data from the group, you can set it to ordered, so it's going monkey, torus, cone, monkey, torus, cone, monkey, torus, cone, or you can set it to random and it will pick at random, so it's less predictable. Okay, so that's randomizing object data. If I go to new layer and add a text object, we can show some of the more interesting ways to use the add-on. So, for text data, there's an awful lot of different ways to both supply it with what you want the text object to display and to choose how it updates and builds that string. So I'm going to turn on Randomiser not in the object properties, but in the properties for the text object. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a monospace font. I think I just grabbed this off the font. That's going to look nicer for when I'm updating the text with noise and stuff, just because it won't jitter about so much. It's not so important, I wouldn't worry about that. So I'm going to turn on randomize, and the default option again is frequency for the update method, which I'm going to keep with because it's a bit simpler and I don't have to set keys. And at the moment, the text source that it's picking from is binary, so it's just a 1 or a 0, and if I start changing frames, it's just going to go 1 0 1 0 1 0. And it's on pick order at the moment, so it's just going to pick in order from the list of data that it's got, which is 1 and 0. I could set this to digits, and you can see now, because it's on pick ordered, it goes in numerical order through all the digits, the binary digits, so 1 through 9, or 0 through 9. I can set that to pick random, and then it will pick random digits. But let's look at some of the more exciting options. So the next most sort of interesting generate method is probably counting. Now for that, it basically takes the current frame and churns that into a number. So if I've got frames per update set to 1 here, it's just going to go up by 1 every frame. If I set frames per update to 10, it's going to go up 1 number every 10 frames. And I can set it to 0.5 and it would go up 2 per frame. So that's all fairly straightforward. I'm going to set that back to 1 for frames per update. Offset just lets you specify an offset. So if I set that to like minus 1,000, then it's going to be 1,000 greater here. So that's useful for setting when you want your count up to start. You can set it to not start until frame 100, like so, and then only start once it gets to 100. Or like I say, you can set a -1 and have it start at a really high number. So let's look at the typewriter and ticker effects, because these are more interesting. So I'm going to open my scripting layout, because for these I'm going to need a text block. So I think a lot of people were thinking perhaps that you used another text object as the source for the text. This isn't how it works. What you need to do is specify a text data block, which is the same as you'd use for writing text in the text editor or for loading in Python scripts and things like that. So I'm going to call this text block sample, and I'm just going to type some sample text. So I think I used this for my demo video as well. Excuse my appalling typing. Inconsistent use of caps. So there's a little piece of text that I can use, and if I copy the name of that and paste it into the randomize settings. So I'm going to set my generate method to, let's do scrolling first, and set that as my text data block sample. And now if I start changing frames, you can see that I'm just scrolling through the text data that I've supplied in here, in my text data block. And I can change the length of the scroll by just changing that setting. I can set it to 20 and so on. So that's the scrolling text readout. Now let's look at the typewriter effect, which is probably the most complex. So if I jump back to frame 1, let's bring up a timeline somewhere. Okay. And now start scrolling through frames. You can see that it types up at 1 character per frame, just like a sort of typewriter effect. And you can do a lot of stuff with the options for the typewriter effect. So the first thing you might do is change the leader, which lets you specify whether you want a noise character as the leader, and I'll talk about the noise settings in a minute. Or you can also use underscore, sort of flashing underscore, like you get in a sort of any kind of text editor. appears, it appears every frame if I set the leader period to 1. So what I'm going to do now is show you how the noise works. So I'm going to set my generate method to pick ordered. I did a little cut here, so it's already switched to it. So set that to pick ordered, and I'm going to set the text source to text file lines. So now it's going to pick a line from this text file over here. Got the update method set to frequency, and so it's just scrolling through the lines of that text file. And if I set my update method to manual, then I'm going to set my time to 0, and it's just going to pick that first line of the text file. So now I'm going to enable noise. Now noise works with all the other generate methods and update methods. It's independent of that. And what it does is it adds some random noise to your text by substituting digits. Now the default method for picking where to put in the noise is called mask, and this lets you specify a list of positions on the string. So if I type in 0 there, it will update the first character with noise. And at the moment, because I've got my update method set to manual and I've not keyed the time, this first one has just become replaced with a 6 in this case, and it's not going to update because neither is the update method for the whole string. But I can turn on update noise independently and set that to 1 frame per update, and now that's going to pick a new noise character every frame. So that's a useful thing for if you want your noise to change at a different frequency to the overall update method. And so my mask is just a list of positions, numbers, delimited by commas, so I can go 0, 1, 2, 3, and that will change the first 4 characters for random noise. I can also specify negative indices, so if I choose -1, that will substitute, I think, the last character. It might be that I've got a space there, so... Oh yeah, I haven't drawn the whole thing, so let's go -5. Yeah, there we go. So that's chosen the 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this must be there's a white space here, so it was ignoring white space before. So yeah, you can specify relative to the end of the list as well with negative numbers. And that's replacing these characters with noise. The other method for generating where you want your noise is random, and if you can then specify a proportion of your characters that you want replaced. So at 0 I'm going to get no noise. At 1 all my characters are going to get replaced with noise, and that somewhere in between it's going to be about half. And you'll notice that the positions that are being substituted are not changing here. This is again because by default it will only update the positions when you update the overall update method. You can turn on pick noise sites independently, and then that will also update where the noise gets put, not just what it is on every frame as well. So now you can see it's moving around each time. And I can set that to 10, and then it would only change the positions of the noise every 10 frames. But there you go. But it's changing what the noise actually is every 1 frame. So you get a quite sort of granular level of control on how you want your noise to look with those options. I think I should point out that if you set the update noise to, what is it? If it's more than the noise sites, it kind of looks like the noise is changing more frequently than it should be, because obviously it should only be updating every 10 frames. But in fact, if you look at an individual character, what it's getting replaced with is staying the same, but it's the noise sites that are moving around every 1 frame. So yeah, that's how the noise works. You can create a whole bunch of different stuff with the Randomiser add-on. It's got a bunch of different effects. And yeah, thanks for your interest in the add-on. Hopefully it's working well for you. If you do get any more bugs, let me know. And yeah, thanks very much.